We have a new era in Japan that is called Reiwa, which also means Japan has a new emperor, the Reiwa Tenno. Last week was his official enthronement ceremony, and he wasn't wearing a kimono, was he? I'm going to analyze his outfit and his wife's outfit from bottom up in this video. In case you're here for the first time, my name is Billy Matsunaga and I'm a fully trained and licensed kimono teacher and stylist. The new emperor in Japan is officially enthroned now, and of course it was broadcasted live in Japan, and I think those pictures went all over the world. And I think some of you have been wondering why he wasn't wearing the most formal kimono for men, which would have been a black kimono with a black hitoe on top and a hakama. Of course, that kimono and that hitoe would have the family crest in it, but he wasn't wearing that. He was wearing a so-called sokutai, which is actually something the aristocrats in the Heian period wore. The Heian period lasted from the end of the 8th century to the 12th century in Western time. At that time, Japan started to have its own kind of fashion after being heavily influenced by China. And some ideas were coming up there, now told to be the essence of kimono. And one of those ideas is actually wearing layers and layers and layers of cloth. And that was exploding during the Heian period. And over the centuries, it got less and less until we only have 2 layers left we're wearing today, the kimono and the undergarment called nagabakama. Which means the sokutai the Tenno was actually wearing is an historical kimono. And I'm going to go through with you what he was wearing from the undergarments up. First of all, he of course would have worn an underwear. Historically, I'm pretty sure it would be something different, but nowadays I think he would wear something more comfortable and modern, so I'm pretty sure it was a non-sleeve shirt and probably shorts. Over that, he would have worn a so-called kosode. Kosode is actually the middle-aged kimono and it's very close to what a kimono looks like today. But in Heian period, kosode were just a normal undergarment and was slightly different with a kimono, and I think it was more close to what we know today as a nagajupan. Over that, he would have worn the first hakama, which is called bakama. Over that, he puts on a so-called hitoe and a akome, which are just simply said 2 more layers of shorter kimonos you have to put on top of that. Then the second hakama is put on, which is called ueno hakama, which actually means, translated, the hakama on top. It's a little shorter than the first hakama, so you can see the red hem of the bakama. The next layer is a so-called shitagasane, which is a kimono that is shorter on the front and has a very long tail on the back, and that tail is actually dragged over the floor when walking. The next layer is called hampi, and it looks more like a vest because it's like a kimono without sleeves. And over that, he finally wears the most impressive thing of his outfit, the hitoe. The color of the emperor's hitoe is very impressive and easy to remember, and it is called Korozen. Korozen is dyed of a very dark red that has a little brown in it, and this color is called suo and yellow, and this gives this Korozen color this really brownish, orangish, yellowish vibes. Of course, Korozen has to symbolize the sun, and this is an idea that is actually imported from China, where the emperor was wearing yellow. But during the Heian period, of course, Japan wanted to have its own fashion statement, so Korozen became the color of the emperor. By the way, a hitoe that is colored in Korozen is called Korozen no goho. And no one is allowed to wear a ho in that color except the emperor. And the emperor is actually wearing this as his most formal dress since 820. By the way, the heir to the throne is wearing Ouni no ho. This orange shade called Ouni is the color of the heir to the throne since Nara period, which was the area before Heian period, and it lasted for about 90 years in the 8th century. And it's the same with Korozen. No one was allowed to wear a ho with that color besides the heir to the throne, and it's still today. And in history, they were even harsher because it was prohibited by law to wear Oni or Korozen, and no matter what clothes you would have been wearing, if it would have just been a bag or it's just your whole kimono, no, you were not allowed to wear those two colors because they're only for the heir to the throne and the tenno. The hat the emperor as well as the heir to the throne were wearing is called kan, and it has some kind of a tail which is called a. And this hat is the most formal hat in Heian period. They had not a lot of hats, but they had some hats, and they also were from casual to very formal. And kan with a is the most formal hat you could have been worn. And when you already think, oh my gosh, these are so many layers of silk, then you should take a look at the women of the royals. They are wearing a so-called juni hitoe. Juni means actually 12, and hitoe actually means layer, which means they are wearing 12 layers of kimono. You can imagine it is very, very, very heavy. By the way, Juni hitoe is actually a name that came up during the Edo period, and originally it was called karaginu mo. And karaginu mo is actually what they're wearing. So let's have a look like how a karaginu mo is actually worn. The first layer, of course, is a kosode, because kosode is and was the undergarment for Juni hitoe as well as sokutai. It is usually white, and over that they wear a red hakama that is called nagabakama, and it is very long, and you can imagine it is very hard to walk in that. When you're actually wondering when the hakama became as short as it is today, I'm going to talk about that in, I think, my video in 2 weeks, so look forward to that. Over that they wear a so-called hitoe. Hitoe is just something you wear between the next layers and has nothing to do with what we know as a hitoe today. The next layer is called uchiki, and several uchiki follow. During the Heian period, there was no limit of uchiki, so there were sometimes even more than 12 layers. But in the middle of the Heian period and to its end, it was settled at about 5 layers of uchiki, and that's why today this part is also called itsutsuki-no, which actually means 5 clothes. Over that they wear uchiki-no, and over that I finally wear the uwagi that has usually a big woven pattern and usually is dyed in more than one color. The next layer is called karaginu. I would say it is more like a shorter kimono coat that has also shorter sleeves, so you can see all the layers you wear under it. And a white veil that is called mo is attached to the lower waist. And this karaginu and mo gives the Juni hitoe its original name, karaginu mo. Since Edo period, they usually style the hair in a so-called osubera kashi, and this is a Japanese hair with a very long ponytail. In Heian period, it would have been just this long and beautiful floating hair. On top, they have a hat, or which looks more like a crown, that is called hirabitai. And in the hands they're holding an hioki, which is a fan made of wood. The colors of the Juni hitoe seen in the enthronement ceremony have no meaning. I think those were chosen by the stylists or the royals themselves. But I want you to take a look at Masako-sama's. She is, by the way, the emperor's wife, uwagi. her uwagi had a pattern that actually consists of her sign. Her sign is a flower that is called hamanasu, and I think in English it is known as beach rose as well as Japanese rose. By the way, all royals have a sign like that. It's called oshiroshi. And it is usually, or it's said to be, it was used that because people were afraid of writing the names of people that having a high status. So they used those signs, which usually would be flowers instead. Of course, today we wouldn't use them anymore, but those signs are still used for designs, for clothing, or here for a design for the kimono. I think you can now imagine how troublesome and actually heavy a juni hitoe and a sokutai is. So here's a question. Why are they still wearing this? Has nothing changed in 1,000 years? And the answer is nope, nothing has changed. Of course, the formal dressing for normal people and samurai was changing over centuries, but when the samurai actually took over to rule over Japan, they also wore sokutai and juni hitoe, just to show that yes, now we're the aristocrats and now we're the ruling status. But as a warrior, you can't wear this inconvenient clothes every time, so it changed over the time what is seen as a formal garment. And of course it got way more practical and way easier than it was as a juni hitoe and a sokutai. And of course, the emperor's family also started to wear the same clothes. But they still had to stand out at formal occasions, and that's why they were continuing to wear those clothes they were actually wearing during the Heian period, and those colors that are actually still chosen to be the color of the emperor and the color of the heir to the throne. So what they are actually wearing is the most formal garment the emperor, the heir, and the whole royal family could actually wear. And this is a thing continuing over thousands of years, and I think this is pretty amazing. The kimono history is super interesting, by the way, and I'm a real geek when it comes to history, so you want to see more videos like this on my channel, then like this video, share this video, comment down below, send me messages on Instagram, Twitter, or wherever you can find me, and let me know that you want to see more content like this. If you're here for the first time and you're now considering of subscribing to my channel and stick around a little more, I would be very happy if you subscribe now. If you already subscribed and watched this video, thank you so much for your support, and I talk to you in my next video next week. Bye!